Hi everybody, I'm back with the pink cup, just warming up my vocal cords before we get into this live. So I'll admit I'm not really feeling 100 today, so I will try my best to be brief. However, I did feel like it was super important to jump on and have a conversation about the innocent mask, which we've been diving into over the last week or so. So one of the questions that I get a lot from leaders who find themselves wearing the innocent mask is, why do I still feel unready? I have the title, I have the team, I'm working on the project, I'm doing the thing, but I still don't feel ready. And a lot of this comes down to the pathway that's gotten you to this point. And that's why today we really want to jump into how our beliefs and the experiences that we've had through family, through friendships, through adulting, and through starting out in the workplace really come to be formative in how we show up as leaders, how we navigate burnout, and how we can actually build resilience in a way that is really going to help us grow in a way that's meaningful so that we can continue to push our comfort zones as we navigate in the workplace, as we fuel our purpose, and as we lead what comes next. So let's talk a little bit about beliefs, right? And beliefs form the foundation of my bridge framework, which is something I focus on in my work with leaders. And it's really important because if you think about it, people who don't feel ready when they've got the qualifications, they have all the experience, they're experts in their field, a lot of this stems from early experiences with feeling like you did not have permission and you did not have the confidence to move forward and show up as the leader that you wanted to be. So in childhood, you might have heard things like, children should be seen and not heard. And you, especially for women, you might have been encouraged that, little girls are not supposed to speak up or make too much noise. And while it might have been appropriate in some of the situations where your parents were asking you to tone down or to be quieter and bring down your energy level a little bit, if this is something you heard consistently and something you were praised for, then it would have started to implant this idea that, me being quiet is actually what keeps people happy and what allows me to be safe and stable, right? Then in your teen years, you might have heard things like, just follow the rules. Follow the rules so that you'll either get rewarded or so that you can avoid punishment, right? It's kind of like that Pavlov's dog experiment, right? Where he rings the bell and his dog starts to salivate at some point. So you start to learn that the way to get positive feedback, right? The way to actually get people's attention is by staying within the lines and the boundaries that they ask you to stay in for whatever reason that may be, right? And again, it's a different context when you're being parented and people have a responsibility to nurture you and provide for you. And it's a completely different context when you're operating in leadership where you are now looked up to and you still don't feel like you really have the tools or trust yourself to make decisions, to be innovative, to think outside the box, because you're still operating from that space of, I'm supposed to do what everybody else has done, right? So that's another way that we start to box ourselves in to that innocent mask without even knowing it as we're going up and as we're maturing through life, right? And then finally, when we're right at that cusp, right, that like sweet spot, maybe right after you finished high school or right after you finished university and you're in adulting mode, you're starting to take on more responsibility for your life, and you're in the early days of your career. A lot of this past reinforcement may also make you start to believe somebody who's smarter and better will come along and tell me what to do, right? And this is where I think a lot of like formative internship experiences can go so much deeper than we realize, right? Which is why leadership is so important, because the junior or younger people that you're bringing up can be heavily influenced by the style of leadership that you have, right? So someone who's wearing the innocent mask might have actually had a leader who was playing hero, which we talked about over the last month. Someone who was very, I can do it myself, I know what's going on, don't do anything unless I tell you to do it, very perfectionistic. Someone who wears the innocent mask today might have had a hero leader before. So then they started to default to, okay, great, I will wait to be told what to do because clearly I don't know what I'm doing. Other people who know better than me will come in and tell me what to do, and I don't want to mess anything up. So my default now is to wait to be told what to do, to not want to rock the boat, to not want to say something that is too controversial, even if it's true, even if there's truth to it. And so you can kind of see that buildup from childhood to teenage years to early career, it can very easily cultivate a leader who is navigating with imposter syndrome, who doesn't really believe that they have good ideas when honestly they are strong, capable, thoughtful, creative, but within their own mind, they've been so used to this idea that you don't add as much value as you think you do. So you need to stay quiet and you need to wait for someone to pick on you. Even think about being in the classroom as a kid. Raise your hand and wait to be picked on, right? And who knew why the teacher was even picking certain people, right? But we have ingrained this in society that it is your job to wait to be picked and selected and told that you're good enough before you can actually take the initiative to rise up and lead. Because what is leadership if not being able to navigate the unknown and navigate uncertainty, right? So this is just the initial snapshot into how we got to where we are when it comes to wearing the innocent mask and what it tends to breed. We talked about imposter syndrome a little bit. And as well, it tends to cultivate these leaders who have a negative charge when it comes to people pleasing and a negative charge when it comes to perfectionism. And by that, what I mean is with perfectionism, that would be the imposter syndrome, that whatever I'm doing isn't good enough, right? A person who knows better, can do better, is smarter, faster, stronger than me, can come in and do this. So I'm not going to lead with what I think I'm good at because I'm probably not good at it. And someone might decide to confront me with that, and I don't want to have to deal with that. And then a negative charge on the people-pleasing side doesn't mean that you're not a people pleaser. It actually means that you are willing to repress and shut down your own needs as a way to please other people, right? So it's sort of like saying, I'm going to be passive in my own needs so that other people can feel more comfortable. I won't speak up for what I need so that other people can feel more comfortable. That's also an approach and a flavor and dimension when it comes to people pleasing. So I'd love for those of you who are rewatching to just reflect and ask yourself if you see some of those tendencies in yourself or those around you when you're in the workplace. Because now hopefully you can connect the dots a little bit more and understand what has brought you here and what has carried along others that you maybe work with or that you maybe even see on your own teams defaulting into this kind of behavior. Cool. So now let's talk a little bit about how this innocent mask and these beliefs kind of show up, right? And even though we might have carried these beliefs for a really long time, they're not impossible to shift, right? This is where we really need to give ourselves some grace and have some optimism around what change can look like, even if operating from the innocent mask has kept us safe, has allowed us to get along with people, has allowed us to have and create harmony in certain spaces, right? But is it real safety? Is it real harmony? Is it real meaningful growth if it sacrifices and compromises who you are? That becomes the big question. So now I'd like to dip into a little bit of astrology, actually. And it's interesting because today, July 24th, 2025, is the new moon in Leo. And so I will talk a little bit about that later. But in the context of astrology and this astrological blueprint, there is a key code called the South Node that everyone has based on the particular date and time and location of where they were born. And our South Node is really trying to give us information about where and how we are trying to grow and push past our comfort zone in this particular lifetime. And so for people who find themselves wearing the innocent mask a lot, they often tend to think through, again, the idea that someone else knows better than them, that if they do a good job, they will be noticed without having to ask, right? And so many of you might have heard the term, closed mouths don't get fed. And so the innocent mask tends to sometimes undermine or sabotage themselves by saying, I am going to be my version of a people pleaser, right? So I won't trouble other people. And I also won't threaten other people by putting out my best work. And hopefully that will allow people to just notice me, right? And pay attention to what I'm doing and reward me. But we know that that's not often how things work, right? It's important for us to be able to speak up, put our best foot forward, lead with what we believe in, and actually push for results that we think are going to be meaningful. And again, when it comes to mission-driven work, if we're not really challenging the status quo, how are we really contributing to social impact, right? I think that's a really important perspective for many leaders in the nonprofit social enterprise space. If we are not asking questions in the external world about what's working and what's not working, and we're not asking questions internally within ourselves about what's working and what's not working, and if we're not asking questions of our organizations about what's working and what's not working, can we really say that we're in alignment with that bigger goal of impact and change for the betterment and the well-being of people and planet? So that's supremely important. And then lastly, what the South Node might be trying to teach you, if you resonate with the innocent mask and those placements, is that it's safer to stay behind the scenes. And this is a big one that I'd like to speak on because yours truly has navigated off of this premise for years. So for those who don't know, in a previous career, I was a chief of staff in a health tech, nonprofit, social enterprise. And I was quite literally rewarded for being this person who was planning, organizing, perfecting, making sure that things were working behind the scenes, making sure that everybody had what they needed, right? And it was validating. It felt great. Like I was like, I'm doing amazing. I'm on top of my career. And I was. At the same time, it kept me in that comfort zone of, Hawa's really good at doing things behind the scenes. That's where she shines. That's where she's good at. That's where she needs to stay if she wants to continue to be successful. If she wants to continue to get praise and validation from other people, from outside of herself, right? And so what is happening now and the journey that I've been on using the bridge framework and using these tools that I've developed in my coaching is to really say, you know what? I love those skill sets. I love that I'm great at being strong on the back end. And now sitting here with you all, with the folks who are watching and engaging with this work, I get to also lead from a place of my deep purpose. I get to talk about the things I believe in. And so now I actually get to blend those worlds together of being an incredible organizer and also being somebody who can sit on a live conversation, right? Who can join a podcast, who can be a public speaker, who can talk about my unique perspective on burnout and resilience and how they're connected and how they can help us heal and grow in organizations. And trust me, when I was working that chief of staff job, I never in a million years thought that, oh, I would be even capable of doing something like this, like what I'm doing right now, right? So again, this is the magic of the South Node. It's helping us to reflect on what is my edge, where can I push my edge, and what are the beliefs I have about how safe and how successful and how fulfilled I can be if I push my edge and move a little bit more into the unknown, right? No risk, no reward. So again, for those of you who are resonating with the innocent mask, I encourage you to ask yourselves, how much is this idea of I'm supposed to wait for somebody else to tell me what to do? How much of that is guiding your leadership? How much have you been rewarded for thinking and acting and behaving that way? Even when you're like, I don't really like this and it doesn't resonate with me, but that's what people want from me. Because when we can start to get honest and clear about that, it can start to really help us shift how we define resilience, right? And how we experience emotional and energetic depletion. Because it can be draining to stay silent when you know you need help, right? It can be draining to be excited and passionate about work and have the voice in your head tell you it's not safe to put that out there. People are going to judge you. People are going to attack you. People are going to steal from you. Just to have, whatever definition it is in your mind that tells you you're not safe, that is incredibly draining. Mental energy and emotional energy that is not balanced and regulated can be incredibly draining. So this is why it's important for us to go back and unpack some of these stories and recognize how we can change them, right? I changed mine from being full-time chief of staff behind the scenes to doing what I'm doing now, and you can too, right? So let's round it up for today with, again, just bringing it back to the bridge framework and the importance of recognizing our belief system and how that can help us or harm us when we're thinking about the next chapter of our leadership. Because fair enough, we can't change, the things we heard from our parents or the way we showed up when we were a teenager or how we started our career. We can't change that, but we can learn from it, right? And we can use it as a way to reimagine and recreate a new narrative for ourselves. So staying stuck in those old beliefs, it's almost like starting a new job and using your old job description in the new job. It just doesn't make sense, right? There's going to be a lot of confusion if you're trying to do what you've done before in a new environment, in a new context. And so that is what we really help leaders to start shifting, that as you're coming into your role as a leader, as a visionary, as a strategist, and you're guiding people to help support these bigger missions and these organizations that are going to have social impact and change the world, we really need to shift the ways that we've coped or the ways that we believe that we need to protect ourselves in order to be successful. So just to close again, I wanted to bring it back to the new moon in Leo, because this is such a fascinating new moon based on what it represents. So new moons are all about new cycles over between now and the next 6 months. So that's pretty much between now and the end of 2025. And Leo energy talks about vision, innovation, and brand identity. And I think this is such a beautiful connector when we're talking about the innocent mask, because the innocent mask would normally shy away from having a vision and articulating it, from thinking outside of the box and being innovative and believing that they are in a position to lead that and that they have the skill, ability, gifts, and talents to lead that. And even in terms of a brand identity, right? How do I want to position myself? Who do I get to be in this workplace? And even if I have been a certain way for a period of time, what would it look like if I wanted to shift that, right? If I wanted to start speaking up and communicating my needs more, if I wanted to start raising my hand in certain meetings more and offering an alternative view and perspective, right? Because at the end of the day, it can start with brain fog, but we know the burnout loop so well at this point. That brain fog becomes exhaustion, becomes physical illness, becomes disconnection from your purpose, and becomes team conflict. And there's only so much you can do to keep team conflict at bay by denying your truth and what is real for you and what you need, right? It's a temporary solution to say, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and hope that that keeps the peace. That's usually not how it works. And usually the growth edge that will appear for you is an opportunity to speak up, speak your truth, hold a boundary. And that's all work that we can really help you do here at Hawa Cambian Consulting. So if that sounds interesting to you, I would invite you to check out our mini course, which is free. Link will be in my bio, or in any link on whatever social media platform you're watching this on. And that tool will really allow you to go through an exploration of how the innocent mask or any of our other masks might be showing up in your leadership, so that you can start to consciously shift them in small ways, in simple interactions. You know, last week we talked about, for the innocent, there's no need to jump into something dramatic all at once if that's not going to make you feel comfortable, right? We want slow, steady, incremental changes that allow you to be sustainable in your leadership and in your authentic leadership. So definitely check out the mini course. And if you want to go deeper, you want to hear more from me, you want more insights and prompts about leadership shifts and things like the new moon, then I'd welcome you to head over to my WhatsApp channel, which is also totally free, where I go deep, I share a lot of voice notes and just kind of regular prompts to help people remember and remind themselves that you've got this, you're a strong leader. It's really just a matter of having some simple tools and some mindset shifts around your belief system as one of the key pillars of the Bridge framework that can really help you navigate your well-being, your resilience, and ensure that you are not a repeat customer at the house of burnout. So with that, folks, I'm going to say a huge thank you. I hope you all stay well, and feel free to reach out and connect if any of this resonates, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks.